She has spent her life speaking plainly about crime and punishment. And now, in the middle of a case that has shocked the country, Ann Widdecombe's name is at the center of a story that took an unexpected turn. Police were called to Ann Widdecombe's home on Dartmoor, where the former MP was found with severe injuries and pronounced dead at the scene. She was 78 years old. Investigators immediately opened a formal inquiry and treated her death as deeply suspicious. For days, officers worked at the property, cordoned off the surrounding area, and began gathering witness statements and forensic evidence to understand exactly what had happened inside that house in rural Devon. Very quickly, attention focused on one individual. A man in his 20s was taken into custody and questioned on suspicion of being responsible for what had occurred. His arrest was widely reported, and for many people following the story from a distance, it seemed to suggest that the investigation had already found its main suspect. In the public mind, the narrative began to settle. A former minister, a younger man, an apparent explanation. But investigations rarely move in straight lines, and this one was no exception. After days of questioning and forensic work, the man was released without charge. That decision did not mean that the case was closed, nor that the death had suddenly become any less serious. It meant that, at that moment, the evidence was not strong enough to support a formal accusation against him. Investigators were not prepared to take the step of charging someone whose connection to the events, in their view, had not yet been clearly established. It was a reminder of something Ann Widdecombe herself often argued when she spoke about justice, that suspicion and proof are not the same thing. The release reshaped the investigation. Instead of moving forward with one named suspect, officers returned to the wider set of questions. Who had access to the property, who had been seen in the area, and what the forensic results from the house and its surroundings might reveal about timings and movements. New details emerged about the nature of the injuries, the timeline of emergency calls, and the presence or absence of signs that might indicate an attempt to force entry. Each piece of information added complexity to the picture, suggesting that the truth about what happened to Ann Widdecombe may be more tangled than the early headlines implied. At the same time, police were clear about what they were not seeing. They said there was no indication that the incident was linked to terrorism. They also indicated that, at this stage, there was no firm evidence that her political work was directly connected to what had taken place. For a woman whose public life was defined by strong opinions, controversy, and heated debate, that distinction mattered. It suggested that the investigation was looking at this as a deeply personal, specific event, not as an attack designed to send a wider message. Friends and colleagues of Ann Widdecombe have reacted to the unfolding story with a mixture of shock and caution. Many of them have spoken about her long career, her years in Parliament, her time as a minister, her outspoken stance on issues from sentencing to Europe, and her later work in broadcasting and public commentary. They have also called for patience, asking the public to remember that an investigation is a process, not a single moment. For them, the most important thing is that the truth is found, whatever it turns out to be. The decision to release the suspect without charge and the new details that have emerged since leave the case in a fragile, unsettled place. There is grief for a life lost, concern about how and why it happened, and a renewed awareness of how careful the justice system must be when assigning blame. The story now is not simply about a man arrested and a woman dead. It is about a system working to separate assumption from fact, and about the legacy of someone who spent her career insisting that justice must rest on solid ground. Ann Widdecombe, former MP, lifelong campaigner and public figure. Her death has opened a difficult chapter, and the investigation around it continues, with one early suspect released, and a renewed search for the full truth of what happened in that quiet corner of Dartmoor. Thank you for watching.